This is a First Coast News on Your Side special report, tracking Helene.
Good evening, folks. Thank you for tuning in tonight. I'm meteorologist Ross Mumal. Latest from the National Hurricane Center, the 8 p.m. advisory. Not looking necessarily a whole lot different from the 5 p.m. Still, a Category 1 hurricane Helene is with sustained winds of 85 miles per hour now. Just beginning to move to the north of Cancun at about 12 miles per hour. So as she continues to move into the very warm ocean waters of the southern Gulf of Mexico, Helene is going to strengthen more and more and more, eventually likely intensifying into at least a Category 4 hurricane before she eventually makes landfall near Florida's Big Bend. So here is the latest cone also from the National Hurricane Center. You'll notice the last couple of advisories and days even, the cone has gotten more narrow and narrow. So we're really beginning to zone in on the western part of Apalachee Bay, really just to the south of Tallahassee. So if you have any family or friends in the Tallahassee area, they are going to be smack dab in the center of where Helene is eventually going to trek over. Now, overnight tonight, likely over about the next 3 to 6 hours, we do expect her to strengthen into at least a Category 2 storm. And then as I had said before, a Category 4 storm by tomorrow afternoon with winds upwards of about 130 miles per hour. Gusts could be anywhere from 150 to 160 miles per hour there before eventually making landfall tomorrow evening, really between about 7 and 9 p.m. there in Apalachee Bay. Now, this whole time, just think of the very strong winds. You see them wrapping around here. That's all going to be feeding up into Apalachee Bay. So a ton of water feeding up into that area. The National Hurricane Center has upgraded really the storm surge threat for this area. So 15 to 20 feet from the most northern part of the bay there, 10 to 15 slightly further to the south down towards Crystal River, and a similar story as you head out towards Panama City. So storm surge threat increasing for those folks. Here along the First Coast, we're going to be looking more so for about a 1 to 3 foot storm surge at the beaches, in those tidal areas and estuaries, and also for the St. Johns River. So you could see some minor flooding, especially if you do get some heavier rain. So that freshwater flooding on top of some of the very minimal storm surge that we are going to see here, especially at high tide tomorrow between about 4 and 6 p.m. for many of our waterways around the First Coast. But here's the latest watches and warnings. Not much has changed here throughout the day. Nearly all of us are in that tropical storm warning. Besides Clinch and Columbia counties, they are in that hurricane warning. So for you folks right out along that I-75 corridor, you are going to be in that hurricane warning and continuing further westward there out towards Tallahassee and even Panama City. So that is what to expect over the next 24 hours. Now, for the time being, we're already seeing a lot of showers streaming in, the heaviest of which are primarily right along the Gulf Coast. So west of Gainesville, southwest of Lake City, but we have had a few thunderstorms make their way in across some of our more southern counties, areas like St. Augustine, Green Cove, Ponte Vedra seeing a few heavier downpours. So expect some showery weather here over the next couple of hours. And really that's going to continue overnight and into tomorrow. If you've lived in Florida before, you know it's not typically rain all the time 24/7 when you do have a hurricane come in. It typically comes in waves. You get these bands of rain and storms rolling on through, some of which will carry an isolated tornado risk. Now, this evening, our threat isn't zero, but it is low, at least for the time being. But certainly by tomorrow morning and then throughout the day, any of those bands coming on shore will have the possibility of seeing a few spin-ups within it, and those storms and potential tornado threats will be moving very, very quickly. So you're going to want to make sure you have multiple ways to receive those warnings and alerts on your phone so you can get to your safe space as soon as possible if one of those warnings does pop tomorrow. Now here's just another bigger look at what Helene is looking like here this evening. This is infrared satellite. You can see just how far she extends up into not only Florida, but especially into central and even northern Georgia. So at the surface, you get that counterclockwise rotation, but aloft in the atmosphere, you get clockwise rotation, allowing her to really expand and grow vertically. So that's kind of why you're seeing these tops blow off to the north and northeast, and actually still causing some thunderstorms up there across Atlanta. Those folks got actually a decent amount of rain here this evening, and the Macon area as well. But really just the overall size of Helene is just incredible to see, really. Over 345 miles the tropical storm force winds extend outward. So 350 miles east or west of the actual core center of the storm, you can feel those tropical storm force winds of 40 to 50, even 60 miles per hour. So this is going to be a huge storm, and you're going to see that here in the wind field. So these yellow colors here, that's going to be those tropical storm force winds to 40 to 60 miles per hour. You're not going to get into those hurricane force winds until you get into the orange and then the red. So you'll notice just east of Panama City, pretty much the entire bay in Apalachee Bay there, from Perry up to Tallahassee, they're going to be experiencing those 80, 90, 100, 110 mile per hour winds within the storm. But the rest of us, even though we're 100, 150 miles east of the actual eye of the storm, are still going to feel a ton of wind. We're expecting at least 40 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts here in Jacksonville and really across most of the first coast throughout tomorrow afternoon and evening and even into the overnight period. So you see here Friday 1 a.m. still very, very windy, and then the storm rapidly moves northward up towards Atlanta, or really the western sides of Atlanta, and then our winds finally begin to taper off by the time the sun rises there come Friday morning. So here's really just another way to look at it, the wind threat from Hurricane Helene. So for folks along I-95, where the vast majority of us do actually live, we're going to be looking much closer to about 40 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts, and then the further west you go, those really begin to stack up. Now out towards Columbia County, Lake City, this map shows you could see anywhere from 60 to 75, but you could, I think, certainly see at least an 80, if not a 90 mile per hour wind gust. And a similar story for folks up in Waycross. Still, 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts could certainly be a possibility for you folks up there in southeast Georgia as well. So that's with regards to at least the wind. Let's talk about the rain. What does the future rainfall look like? Well, this is going to be tomorrow morning. As I had said before, we're going to see bands, waves of rain and storms roll on through. Let's see if the model might not want to update here. Either way, you're going to see multiple rounds of rain come in. The heaviest of it, though, is generally going to stay further west. So it won't be a complete washout of a day, but you're certainly going to see some heavy downpours rolling through, some showers here or there, but really the wind is going to be the primary threat, and it's really going to pick up after about lunchtime tomorrow. So wind gusts throughout the first half of your Thursday, anywhere from about 20 to 40 miles per hour. Then after lunchtime, and really you get closer to that time you're heading home on your evening commute, 4, 5, 6 p.m., that's really where you're going to start to notice the velocity on those wind gusts begin to crank up quite a bit. So I wouldn't say stay at home all day. If you have somewhere you have to be, if you have an appointment, you have to go to work, you certainly could do so, but I highly, highly suggest and recommend to get off the roadways and just hunker down and stay put after about 4 or 5 p.m. then tomorrow evening. That's really when those wind gusts are going to start to get much higher, especially on some of the higher bridges and things like that, not only around Jacksonville, but really across much of the city. So there's 5 p.m. tomorrow. 9 o'clock then, some of the heavier wind gusts start to come on in there across the western part of our viewing area. That's where those 70 to 80, even 90 mile per hour wind gusts start to creep on in. And then by early Friday morning, things finally begin to taper down here a little bit. With regards to how much rain we could see, I said the heaviest of the stuff is going to be a little bit further west, and you'll kind of see that in what the Weather Prediction Center is showing. About 4 to maybe 6 inches out towards Tallahassee. The Lake City area, you're going to be looking closer to about a 2 to 3 inch range. And many of us here across I-95, widespread rain, probably only going to see maybe 1 to 2 at most. I think we're going to see a few pockets, certainly, of some heavier totals, 3 to 4 inches potentially. But widespread rain, all of that's generally staying really to the west of I-75. And you might think, well, why aren't we seeing nearly as much rain? You know, we saw Hurricane Debbie in the early to middle part of August, and she dumped 6 to 7 inches of rain in Jacksonville, over a foot of rain out towards Lake City and the Swanee. And really, the cold front is steering not only where Helene goes, but also where the vast majority of the tropical moisture falls across much of the southeastern part of the U.S. So because that front slides on down, all this tropical moisture slams right up against it, kind of enhances the rainfall across much of Georgia and even into southeastern Alabama and the Panhandle, but keeps us a little bit drier. So although we will certainly see some rain, worst and heaviest of the rain is still going to be on that northern tail that extends right along that cold front, and that front pretty much drives Helene right up across Tallahassee then and into southern Georgia there. So here's another way to look at it. If you've been confused about anything I've said here, if you're thinking specifically Duval County or Jacksonville even, from Thursday morning at about 8 a.m. the whole way up until Friday morning at 4 a.m. This is generally what we're kind of thinking for the worst of all the impacts. So with regards to those wind gusts, they gradually pick up throughout the day. By 4 p.m., you're going to start to see winds of 45 to 50, even 60 miles per hour. And I think they do top off at about 60, really between about 8 p.m. and midnight tomorrow evening. With regards to rain, we're going to see bands roll through. So in total, I think you can see 2 to 4 inches. It's not going to be a whole rainy day event, but you are still going to see those winds throughout much of the day. Tornado-wise, quick spin-ups will certainly be possible as those outer bands roll on in. They will be very quick. So any warnings that do come out typically will only be about 15 to 30 minutes at the most, but we certainly could see several tornado warnings across much of northeast Florida, a slightly higher chance for tornadoes across southeastern Georgia. So think Fernandina Beach up to Brunswick and then up towards Savannah will likely see that best chance or highest chance for spin-up tornadoes tomorrow and into early Friday morning. Storm surge wise, 1 to 2, maybe 3 feet in a few spots as those strongest winds come in then late tomorrow evening. So here's again just kind of another way to look at it specifically for Duval County and the Jacksonville area. Gusts to 60, isolated tornadoes. The wettest or the rainiest time between about 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. Those strongest winds and drier air begins to come on in after dinner time tomorrow night. So the windiest will certainly be between about 5 p.m. tomorrow evening and 5 a.m. come Friday morning. Baker, Union, Bradford, Columbia County, you folks are going to be pretty much getting the worst of the entire storm here. Wind gusts anywhere from about 70 upwards of 90 miles per hour. That could certainly cause a lot of flying debris. That's broken tree limbs, a lot of downed trees, power lines, things of that nature. You could begin to see not only minor but potentially major roof damage. So prepare yourselves for that, and also expect extensive power outages, especially in some of those more rural communities that might take a little bit longer to get the power back on. Also, with the trees coming down, a lot of those rural roads will certainly potentially be impassable as well. So just keep that in mind. Again, after I'd say 4 to 5 p.m. tomorrow night, you want to just hunker down, stay at home, stay in your safe spot, and kind of just ride out the storm from there, because between about 6 p.m. and midnight tomorrow night, that is going to be the worst of the storm out there along I-75 and for many of our western counties. Now, heading up a little bit further north into southeast Georgia, this is where Charlton, Brandley, Pierce counties, worst of the storm is going to be a little bit later in the evening. Of course, the storm's moving from south to north, so about 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. will be the worst of it. Wind gusts of 60 to 75 miles per hour, and a few isolated tornadoes will still be possible. Nearly everyone will see an isolated tornado risk here over about the next 24 to 36 hours. St. John's, Flagler counties, 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. will be the worst 12-hour window for you. Similar story for Clay and Putnam counties as well, maybe just slightly earlier by an hour or two. But overall, you're not going to see a whole lot of variation for some of our more coastal southern counties here across the first coast. And then Glenn, Camden, Nassau County probably has the best chance to not only see tornadoes there, as I had mentioned. Southeast Georgia is going to likely be the bullseye for the best chance to see tornado warnings, but also storm surge as well of about 2 to 4 feet, especially as the storm moves on shore. We'll get those winds, again, anywhere from about 40 to 60 miles per hour. I think a few coastal areas could push close to about 65 tomorrow evening. And then really, it's a terrible day to be out on the water. Sea is going to be certainly very high. And again, that storm surge going to be the highest up there in southeast Georgia. So here's just everything kind of in a nutshell as best we can to try to get over to you. So making landfall tomorrow evening between about 7 and 9 p.m. in Apalachee Bay. Although we're still far away from the eye, we're going to feel those impacts throughout the day. Bands and waves of rain moving in throughout much of the day tomorrow, many of which will carry that isolated tornado risk. Some heavy downpours could certainly lead to some street flooding as well. And then the wind gusts through most of your day. So from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., think wind gusts 30 to 40. By the time you're driving home from work, you're getting home to maybe sit down and eat dinner. That's when the winds start to pick up 50 to 60 miles per hour for Jacksonville. For you folks who live out further westward towards the Lake City, wind gusts going to be pushing closer to 70, 80, if not even 90 miles per hour. So we're going to have much more on Hurricane Helene. The next update comes out in just under 3 hours at 11 p.m. So I urge you to tune into First Coast News at 11 for that update. But until then, I'm meteorologist Ross Mumal, First Coast News on your side.
This has been a First Coast News on your side special report tracking Helene.